In this video, we are going to create an app that works with lists, arrays, and web browsers. As most of you probably know, as you've used apps on a mobile device, that displaying things in a list is one of the most common design patterns used in mobile applications. So think about some of the things that you look at on your phone. For example, the weekly weather forecast is listed in a table. All of your text messages listed in a table, all of your contacts listed in a table, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do in this video is create a list, use an array, and then hook that up and take use of hooking it to a web browser. This is the app running. This is the app that we're going to be creating in this video, and I went ahead and have it created here and have it brought up on the emulator in our virtual device, and I'm going to go ahead and run it for you. So the first thing I'm going to do here is click on the Art Institute of Chicago, and when I do that, you'll see that I have programmed it to go out to a particular web link. I can navigate back. I also can click on this Willis Tower and bring up a picture of that. So what this app is doing is it is a travel app, we'll call it, and it's displaying some of the popular tourist attractions in the city of Chicago. So the Art Institute, the Magnificent Mile, Willis Tower, Navy Pier, and Water Tower. So all these things we've put into the app ourselves using an array and used a list to display all them and to control the content. So I'm now going to walk you through the steps to put this together. One of the first things that you're going to need to do in this project is to go ahead and create a new project. We've done this many times before, and you will do it just the same as always. You will do File, New Project, and you will put together a project named City Guide, and you will leave all of the defaults, and we'll be doing the format of a phone or a tablet. And if you need to change the minimum SDK to ice cream here, you can. And we will leave the activity blank, and we will be brought up to our actual emulator screen. We will delete off the Hello World. We will change it to be a Nexus 5, and then we will be set to start making some changes into our application itself. One of the things that we also need to do that we've done in the past is to go ahead and put a custom launcher into our res folder, into the drawable drawer. So out there you can go ahead and download the Chicago .png to have a custom launcher that we will use later on when we're putting together our activity. And the custom launcher is going to look like this. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to click into our main activity. And again, I've already coded a lot of this, so some things are already here that you might not have in your one of the very first things we're going to do is we're going to come up to the class declaration statement, and we are going to change that and make sure that it extends the list activity. This is so it can work with our array. So we want to extend the activity and make it be list activity so that again we can work with the list that we're going to be putting into our program. You might have to do a Alt-Enter to import in the list activity class so that you have access to it. So if you're getting an error, don't forget that you might have to do some imports. Once we do that, the next step is to go ahead and declare and code our array. So right here, what you're going to see, this line is where I'm actually putting together an array. Its type is going to be a string, and I'm calling it attraction. And you're seeing what I'm putting into the array. And it makes sense because I showed you how the app actually runs itself. So we have the different entries into the array. Now, if you've taken a programming class before, you understand a little bit about how array indexing works. It starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to set up and code the list adapter. And this is going to actually be using a custom XML that we are going to be programming and putting in to our project. You might get an error when you first key in the set list adapter the way that I have it coded here on the screen, because we have not yet gone in and created the ID called travel, but we soon will. So if that throws you an error, just leave it and we will come back to that. Next thing we want to do is we want to come out here to the activity main.xml, and we want to change the theme. Make sure that you change the theme, and we're going to again change it here, but also remember that we also need to come into the styles and change it here as well. So here you're going to change it to theme.appcompat and leave it like that, and then make sure that we are saving it. And then we'll close out the styles.xml. Alright, something else that we need to do within this app is also come over here and add some more resources in our drawable folder here. We need to put in the pictures for the different images that we're going to click and have them displayed. So you need to add in the pier, the water, and the Willis Tower there, .pngs, and put those into the resource drawer so later we can use them within our project. We also are going to have to update some strings, of course, in our application. So the strings that you're going to be putting in is the app name, one called Pier, title for the activity Pier, title for water, title activity for Willis, and then water and Willis. So we're going to be putting in those keys into our strings so that we can use those later in our application as well. The next thing we're going to have to do is put in some XML code manually. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close out my strings.xml, and I'm also going to close out some of these other things that I have open. So let me just clean up these images. And what I'm going to go to is the actual activity main.xml file. And this is the chunk of code that you're going to need to key in to create a custom XML layout. So what we're doing here is saying that we are going to create a custom layout, and it's going to be a text view. So you'll have your open and close tag for text view. We will have the layout width, height, and then we're going to set up an ID called travel, and that's going to make that code that's in our Java main, that's going to sync up with that. And then we're also, here's where I put code in for my custom launcher as well, if you added that to your resource drawer also. So this is what this is doing. It's the Android layout, our ID, our text size, the ID again to be identified in our Java code, and then lastly it was our custom launcher as well. So you'll want to save that, and that is what we're going to be using to make some of this work. So again, back in the main activity.java, when you come here, now you might have to do an import, but everything should hook up here, and this is where you're coding the list adapter here to use that custom XML, and then we're going to load it with the array, what's in the array, called attraction. So we created our custom XML. We're going to extend that out, and whatever is going to be in that array is what's going to be displayed in that text view area, that custom XML layout that we just created. So it's probably a little confusing, but I think if you look at it a couple times, run your application, it'll start coming together. The next thing that we need to do is go ahead and create our on list item click, because now we want to have our table displayed, and we want to be able to go through and determine what the user has clicked on and act appropriately. So at this point, it's probably a good idea for you to go ahead and run your program in the emulator. So you might want to pause me right now and run it in the emulator, and then come back when you're ready to move on. All right, so moving on, you're going to put a line of code that is going to be a list item click, and it's going to list and listen for what has been clicked on. Keep in mind that this right here is a lowercase l, not the number 1. That will drive you insane if you get that wrong, because it won't like it. So what we're doing here is we're saying we want to determine what's been clicked on. And then we're going to put together a switch statement, which is a decision structure. It's a conditional. And what we're saying is the switch is based on the position. So the position is where the end user has clicked. And we're going to set it up to look at the different places in our list. So our list, and it's working like our array here, and it's saying case 0, so that's going to be the very first spot. Case 1 will be the second, case 2 third, case 3 fourth, and case 4 will be the last. So what we've coded up here, there's a break statement after each case, and that is so that once the end user has clicked, and then we've put our code in there, and once that's run for whatever is to happen for that particular list item, then it will break, and it will be a way of getting out of the actual case statement itself. So what we're going to do is it's going to look at the position that it's been clicked on, and then it's going to use the code then to determine what needs to happen. So what we're going to code up inside our case statement is the use of intents. So Android uses something called an intent, and an Android intent sends and receives activities and services that will open a web page in a browser. It could be used to call a phone number or to work with a GPS on a map. So it's a way of sending information to and from different other types of applications. And this particular one is going to be launching a web browser. So the line of code right here, start activity, new intent, intent.action_view. What we're doing is we're saying we want to open up that particular website. And you saw when I demonstrated my app, when I clicked there, that opened up that main website for the Art Institute there in Chicago. The second link is going to go to the website for the magnificentmile.com. So that is how you code up the actual events to call a web browser. The next 3 events here are going to actually just open up another page with an image, and those were the other images that we loaded up into our application. So in order to make those work, those are going to be a different class file all on its own. So here what we're going to do is we are going to have to create multiple class files. So to do that, and I already have mine created, so you can see here we're going to create one for each of the 3 remaining places, so Willis, Water, and Pier. What you're going to do is you're going to do File, New, and then you are going to actually create a new activity here, because remember the new activity is going to go along with our class file. So new activity and then empty activity. And then from here, we're going to give it the name of the actual activity activity. So this is where you would name yours, for example, Willis, and then you would give it a layout name. So you could call it Willis Tower, and then you would click next through those activities. Now I've already created those, so it already thinks it knows I already have one, so it's not happy about that. Okay, so you're going to go through there and create the new activity, empty or blank activity. Type Willis in the activity name, and then Willis Tower in the for the title for the app as well. All right, once you do that, then what you're going to see is your actual class file created, and all it's going to be doing is going to be displaying the activity that you created when you were creating your class file. So it's going to be coded up by default to do exactly what we need it to do. Now what we'll do is we'll look at all of the activities that were created when we created our new class files. So here's our activity underscore Willis.xml file that is going to be displayed whenever we click the button. So what we have here, you'll want to bring over an image view control, and when you define that, you will want to bring up the source of your Willis image, give an ID of img Willis, and then you can change the other text properties as you would like. One thing that you can do is go over here to content description and pull that up from our resource drawer as well. So it will have a description. So you'll want to do that for the Willis and the water and then the pier. So you'll do that step for all three of those. Then what you'll do is you'll just go back to your case statement in your main activity, and all you're saying here is that you want to go ahead and have that activity execute that class file, and all that class file is a simple Java class file that's actually just going to display the image, and that's all it does. So it's pretty simple. So again, here is my Willis class file, and all it's going to do is just do a set content view to whatever is in activity underscore Willis. Activity underscore Willis is this. Back to my main, that's what I told it to do, was to start that activity, and it's simply going to stay there until I come back, and then it's just going to break. So you'll have two more start activities that you will code up and put into your case statement to actually finish out your program. So at this point, I would ask you, what would we do if we wanted to add another activity into our list and we wanted to call it pizza? Because I don't know if you've ever been to Chicago, but if you do, they have awesome deep dish pizza. So think about the steps within the process that we would go through to add a pizza into our actual list. We would have to go ahead and add that to our array. Then what we would do is we would set up another case statement. Then we would have to come up here and add another activity. So file new activity, empty activity. We could call it pizza and have an activity named activity underscore pizza. We could then go to the activity. So again, there's several steps in the process, but once you go through them a couple times, it becomes very easy to see how you could create a list document here. And yes, that's my dog barking in the background, so I apologize. Somebody's at the neighbor's house and she's trying to inform me of it. So, this is a fun app. Let me know if you have any questions or need any help as you are working your way through it.